The increase in the level of greenhouse gases, especially carbon dioxide and methane, has led to increase in the heating of the earth, leading to global warming. Greenhouse effect is actually good for maintaining the temperature of the atmosphere. The absorption of the sun's radiation is increasing by these gases. Therefore, the reflecting back of the radiation has become minimum. Hello everyone, a warm welcome to today's session on chapter 16 of 2nd PUC, that is environmental issues. I am Dr. Divya, biology faculty, Vidhyaashram Pre-University College, Mysuru, Temple of Excellence. So in the previous session of this chapter, we had discussed about solid waste and the different strategies to control the solid waste, and also we learnt about a case study. And also we learnt about the agrochemical wastages and how to control the agrochemical waste by switching over to organic farming. In today's session, let us discuss about radioactive waste, its control, and also let's learn about the hazards of the greenhouse gases and how to prevent the greenhouse gases. So to begin with, let us start with radioactive waste. So radioactive waste, that is initially nuclear energy, was hailed as a non-polluting way for generating electricity. So electricity is usually generated either by, that is hydrothermal power, right, by using water. But water, how long can we depend on water for generating electricity? Because the use of electronics is increasing, the population is increasing, and it is very difficult to supply huge amounts of electricity for the household and for the industrial purposes. So therefore, the government came into a idea of switching over to the use of nuclear energy in order to generate electricity. So when they put this proposal, they said that the scientists, whoever was involved with this, they said that actually nuclear energy will not cause any pollution to the environment. But later on, they came to know that it was not true. They can cause quite a hazardous effect on the environment as well as the humans if they are exposed to it. So later on, it was realized that the use of nuclear energy has two very serious inherent problems. And what are those problems? The first problem is that accidental leakage might occur, and if at all accidentally from the nuclear power reactors, the nuclear energy leaks into the environment, as in the example wherein we'll take about the nuclear power plants, that is 3 Mile Island and Chernobyl incidents, wherein nuclear energy leakage had taken place, and there was the people were exposed to radioactive waste. And the problem with this is radioactive waste, once it leaks into the environment and if the people are exposed to it, then it will be there for generations to generation. The next child that is born also will have a lot of disability. So that is one problem with the leakage of the nuclear waste or the radioactive waste that occurred in 3 Mile Island and Chernobyl incident. So when these two incidents occur, then the scientists came to know that, okay, nuclear power plants are one of the major contributors for quite a hazardous effect on the environment, and therefore there has to be something that needs to be done in order to properly dispose the radioactive waste and to be very cautious when working in the nuclear power plants. So let's study about the effects of the radioactive waste, what all harm it can cause to the humans. So radiation that is liberated while generating electricity in the nuclear power plants is extremely damaging to the organism because it results in mutations. So all the organisms functioning is based on the genes that are present, right? Where are the genes present? It is present in the DNA. So if this DNA gets mutated, then it will cause a lot of genetic disorders and health issues in the human beings as well as animals. And at high doses or high dose exposure to nuclear radiation is quite hazardous or poisonous or lethal, but at lower doses also it creates lot of disorders. And the most common disorder when exposed to radioactive radiations or nuclear wastes, it leads to cancer, because cancer usually occurs because of mutation itself, right? Wherein mutation will occur and the uncontrollable division of the cells will start leading to cancer. Variety of cancers can be seen. So therefore, nuclear waste is an extremely toxic pollutant and it has to be dealt with utmost caution. So that is why there is a ban of using nuclear weapons, and that is why even though we can generate electricity using nuclear waste, that is through nuclear energy, but still much importance is not given to it because of this major reason, because once it leaks to the environment, then nothing can be done to stop it. It can create a havoc in the lives of the people as well as other organisms, not just for that particular time, but from generations to generation throughout the year. The best example that we can take of is Hiroshima and Nagasaki, right? How tragic that one bad thought of war which had caused such a tragic incident, wherein till today it is said that the children who are born, they are suffering because of the mutations or because of the presence of the radioactive waste in the environment still now, and it is not possible to clean it. Now nothing can be done. Only thing is they should have prevented it at that time. So that is why much importance is not given to the nuclear power plants or setting up of nuclear power plants. So next, let's see, in order to prevent the leakage of the exposure of the environment to the radioactive waste, how can the radioactive waste in an effective manner or in a scientific manner can be disposed? So let's study about the disposal of radioactive waste. So it has been recommended that the storage of nuclear waste after sufficient pre-treatment should be done in suitably shielded containers. So first, the radioactive material that is there, it should be made inactive. Proper treatment, like how in factories and all, before releasing the smoke through the chimneys into the atmosphere, it should be treated, right? Wherein the toxic smoke materials and all that particulate matter should be removed. And then it has to be sent to the atmosphere. Just like that, here also, first the radioactive substance should be made inactive, and that inactive radioactive waste that are there or the nuclear waste that are there, that should be put in shielded containers like this, and these containers should be buried in deep rocks, buried within the deep rocks, which is buried at least 500 meters deep below the Earth's surface. But again there, if something happens to these and they corrode, or we can't say no, because of nature's activities, something might happen to these radioactive waste that has been dumped deep, that is 500 meter below the Earth's surface, and if at all it leaks, again it can cause a lot of havoc and problems. So however, this method of disposal, therefore, it was meeting stiff opposition from the public. The public did not approve for this particular method of disposal, but this is the way how exactly the radioactive materials can be disposed. So they'll dig deep grounds, that is 500 meter deep grounds they will dig, especially in rocky places, or if there is no rock, they will build walls with rocks around it, and then they will bury it deep inside, and then they will just close it off. So that is how radioactive waste should be disposed. So next, let's study about the greenhouse effect. So greenhouse effect is one of the common terms that is heard throughout. So greenhouse effect, it is a naturally occurring phenomenon. So a greenhouse effect is usually seen in these horticultural sheds and all that, wherein it is used to grow, that is in greenhouses, wherein plants are grown, right, where beautiful plants are grown. In that greenhouse also, what happens, because it is completely covered with glass or it is made up of plastic, the heat that is liberated will not go out, and therefore it will reflect back into the greenhouse itself, increasing the temperature in the greenhouse. Same thing happens in the environment as well. So the greenhouse effect is a naturally occurring phenomenon that is responsible for heating of Earth's surface and the atmosphere. So without greenhouse effect, the average temperature of the surface Earth would have been minus 18 degrees centigrade rather than the present average being 15 degrees centigrade. And in order to understand the greenhouse effect, it is necessary to know the fate of the energy of sunlight that actually reaches the outermost atmosphere. So what happens here in the greenhouse gases? So without greenhouse effect is actually good for maintaining the temperature of the atmosphere. If the greenhouse gases were not maintained properly, then the Earth's temperature would be, or if the greenhouse gases were not there or greenhouse effect was not there, then the Earth's temperature would be minus 18 degrees centigrade. But can we survive in minus 18 degrees centigrade throughout? No, not possible, right? But because of the greenhouse effect, the Earth's temperature is maintained at 15 degree centigrade. So, thanks to greenhouse, which is a natural process. But because of pollution nowadays, we are contributing to the greenhouse effect in such an extent that it is overheating the planet. How? We shall look into. So, here they have given a diagram in your textbook wherein they have shown that in the greenhouse effect, the sun that is emitting the radiation, some of the radiation will be given out and some will be absorbed by the earth itself, and therefore it will keep the earth's temperature warmer. So that is what is greenhouse effect if it is a natural phenomenon. And there are some greenhouse gases which actually contributing to maintaining the earth's temperature. They are the nitrous oxide, which is 6%, then the chlorofluorocarbons 14%, then 20% of contributed by methane, and 60% is contributed by carbon dioxide. But because of human intervention, greenhouse effect is drastically increasing, leading to the increase in the temperature of the earth and therefore leading to a lot of environmental issues. So carbon dioxide and methane, which are the two important greenhouse gases, they are the ones that actually which are responsible for the greenhouse effect. So the clouds and gases that are there, they reflect about 1/4 of the incoming solar radiation. So here solar radiation that is entering into the Earth's atmosphere, that will be absorbed by the clouds and the gases, and they will reflect back 1/4 of the incoming solar radiation, and only a few percentage of solar radiation will reach the Earth's surface, keeping the Earth's surface warm. So that greenhouse effect is sufficient to keep the Earth's surface warm, and it absorbs some of it, but half of the incoming solar radiation falls on the Earth's surface, heating it, while a small proportion of it is reverted back, or it is reflected back into the atmosphere itself or outside of the atmosphere. So therefore, this is how. But what happens because of the extreme liberation of carbon dioxide and methane as a result of pollution? The greenhouse effect is increasing, wherein too much amount of heat is being absorbed by the earth, and therefore the earth is getting heated up to such an extent, it is causing the melting of glaciers, the snow caps, ice caps, and all that. So Earth's surface re-emits the heat in the form of infrared radiation, but part of this does not escape into the space, as atmospheric gases such as carbon dioxide, methane, etc. absorb major fraction of it. Now, what did we understand? There are two important greenhouse gases, carbon dioxide and methane. So, carbon dioxide and methane is there in the Earth's atmosphere, right? So, when the sun emits the radiation, a part of the radiation will be absorbed by the carbon dioxide, methane, whatever is there in the atmosphere, and it will be given to the Earth's surface. And the remaining that is there will be sent back, will be reflected back. Therefore, that small portion that is absorbed by the Earth is sufficient to keep the Earth warm. But nowadays what is happening is, because of pollution, extreme pollution, the amount of carbon dioxide and methane is increasing in the atmosphere. Therefore, the absorption of the sun's radiation is increasing by these gases. Therefore, the reflecting back of the radiation has become minimum, and therefore the temperature of the earth has started to increase. So, this is what is happening. So, the molecules of these gases, that is the carbon dioxide and methane, they radiate heat energy, and a major part of which again comes to the earth's surface, thus heating it up once again. So this cycle gets repeated many times. So this is what happens. So this is a normal phenomenon, but as I told you, because of overpollution, there is overpresence of, or there is lots of greenhouse gases, amount of greenhouse gases, that is carbon dioxide and methane, which is resulting in continuously heating up of the earth, therefore causing a lot of problems to the environment. So what are the effects of greenhouse gases? Let's look into. So greenhouse gases, the increase in the level of greenhouse gases, especially carbon dioxide and methane, has led to increase in the heating of the earth, leading to global warming. So global warming means the temperature of the earth, whole globe, tends to increase. So during the past century, it is said that because of these greenhouse gases, the temperature of the earth has increased by 0.6 degrees Celsius, most of it during the last 3 decades. So since last 3 decades, the earth's temperature has increased by 0.6 degree Celsius, and scientists believe that if this rise in temperature continues, it will lead to some of the major effects or changes in the environment, and therefore it will result in a lot of climatic changes. That is, for example, El Nino effect. So El Nino effect, obviously it will lead to the melting of the glaciers, the snow caps and all that, thus leading to increase in melting of polar ice caps as well as the other places like the Himalayan snow caps. So when these ice and glaciers melt, the water level will increase. If the water level increases, it will lead to flooding and all that, and lot of environmental related issues. So this is the effect of greenhouse gases. And over many years, the continuous effect of the greenhouse gases will also result, or because of the continuous increase in the greenhouse gases, therefore continuous heating of the earth and the melting of the snow caps, the sea level will change, and therefore most of the coastal area can get submerged. So this problem can also occur. So the total spectrum of changes that global warming can bring about is a subject that is still under active research. So what exactly can happen if continuous global warming can occur? And what other problems might arise? Still research is going on under that. So that is why we need to minimize the emission of the greenhouse gases. How? By minimizing pollution of the environment, especially by minimizing the usage of chlorofluorocarbons, by minimizing the usage of vehicles, etc. So this is how we can prevent. So next, let's study how to control the greenhouse effect. So first thing is cutting down use of fossil fuels such as petrol, diesel, etc. We have to reduce the use of that and switch over to the compressed natural gas or some biofuels that are available, and also improve the efficiency of energy usage, meaning whenever unnecessarily don't waste the electricity or unnecessarily don't use the vehicle. Instead, you can use a public transport, you can go in for carpooling, all that can be done. And also reducing deforestation, because deforestation means the cutting of trees. If you reduce deforestation, the cutting of trees will get reduced. Therefore, more number of trees, then the lesser the carbon dioxide content in the atmosphere. So that is how we can do. And by planting trees, that is reforestation can be followed, and slowing down the growth of human population. Therefore, less number of human population, less problem to the environment. So this is also one factor. And next, a lot of international initiatives have been taken in order to put laws and take up measures to prevent the greenhouse effect or to control the greenhouse effect. A lot of summits, the Earth Summit and all that, they have undertaken, wherein all these discussions are done to control the greenhouse gases. So this is how the control of greenhouse gases can be done. So next, let's study about degradation by improper resource utilization and maintenance. So we need to properly utilize the resource and not improperly utilize the resource, so that it doesn't lead to a lot of problem to the future generation. So what can be done? We should look into. So the degradation of natural resources can occur not just by the action of the various pollutants that are present in the environment, because of improper use of the resources. What we do is, that is called as sustainability, right? Wherein we need to use the natural resources in such a way that it will not get depleted for the future generation, so that the future generation can also use these resources in a proper manner. So there are two important reasons which actually lead to the degradation of the natural resources. So one is soil erosion and desertification, and the second one is waterlogging and soil salinity. So let's study about these two in detail. Soil erosion and desertification. So the development of fertile topsoil actually takes centuries, right? Because the rocks has to wither. And when weathering of the rocks occurs, whatever minerals is there in the rocks, they will also add on to the soil content. Therefore, to form a fertile top layer of soil, it takes centuries, that is hundreds of years are taken, but it can be removed very easily due to human activities like over-cultivation. So here we are unnecessarily using the or degrading the natural resources by excessively cultivating the agricultural lands, by unrestricted grazing. So what happens if we continuously subject the animals or allow the animals to graze in a particular land? Then the grasses will get over there. So grasses are one of the main plants that actually root so well to the soil that they prevent soil erosion. So therefore, soil erosion can occur, and also deforestation, poor irrigation practices, all this will result in soil erosion. So when soil erosion occurs, what happens? The topmost fertile layer of the soil will get washed off, and therefore the soil will become arid. That is, it will become dry, and therefore the land will become dry, so, or it will become unfertile, right? So that is why we should never misuse the natural resources, or we should not overexploit natural resources, which may lead to the degradation of the other. So when large barren patches, so barren patches means the unfertile lands, they extend, and over the course of time, what happens? They will get converted into a desert. So internationally, it has been recognized that desertification is one of the major problem nowadays because of over-exploitation of the natural resources, especially due to the increase of urbanization. So urbanization also makes or reduces the fertility of the land, therefore making it desert. So therefore, desertification is mainly because of urbanization nowadays. Next is because of waterlogging and soil salinity. So irrigation without proper drainage. So whenever we go in for irrigation, proper drains has to be given to the field, so that the excess water that is there will just get removed from the fields. Otherwise, what will happen? Water will become stagnant on the field, and it will result in waterlogging condition. So improper drainage of water leads to waterlogging in the soil. And besides this waterlogging, it mainly affects the crops, and not just that, waterlogging also removes the essential nutrients that is present in the surface of the soil. And not just that, whatever salt content is there at the bottom of the soil, it will drain the salt content to the surface of the soil, and the salt then gets deposited as a very thin layer of crust on the soil surface, and therefore increasing the salinity of the soil. So the salt then gets deposited as a thin crust on the land surface, and eventually the salt, as it starts collecting at the, it will start collecting at the roots of the plant. And if the plant salt gets collected at the roots of the plant, we know that it leads to the osmosis, right? Wherein the water from the roots will start diffusing out or moving out of the plants, therefore depriving the plant of water. And if the plant gets deprived of water, then eventually the plants will die. So this is how the waterlogging and soil salinity can deplete the resources. here in both the cases we are depleting the natural resources, that is the plants here, right? So this increased salt content results in the decrease in the growth of the crops, and therefore it is an extremely important or extremely hazardous factor that actually causes a lot of damage to the agriculture. And waterlogging and soil salinity are some of the problems that come in the wake of green revolution. Why? Because green revolution, farmers have become greedy. That is, they have started to concentrate only on improving the yield of the plant, and they have neglected all this. So to improve the yield of the plant and to increase the farm area, they have gone in for the depletion of the natural resources, wherein they went in for the deforestation process and all that, and therefore leading to a lot of problems, leading to desertification, and also they have gone in for using of a lot of fertilizers and all that, and not providing proper drainage and all that, leading to waterlogging and soil salinity, therefore resulting in depletion of the plant resources on the whole. So that is why the proper usage of natural resources is very, very important, because the over exploitation of one natural resource may lead to or cause a problem to the other, or the depletion of the or the degradation of the other. So we have to be very careful with this. So this was about this particular session wherein we studied about the radioactive waste, the greenhouse gases, and also we came to know what happens if we don't use the natural resources in a systematic manner, and what kind of degradation or depletion of other natural resource it can lead into. So with this, the session comes to an end. In the coming session, let's study about deforestation in detail, what it is, how can we control deforestation, and let's take a few case studies wherein some of the people have participated in the conservation of forests. So there is Chipko movement and how the Bishnois of Rajasthan contributed to the control of the depletion of the forest or cutting of trees. All that we shall study. So we shall meet again in the coming session. Thank you.